Hello and welcome to this video about the new moon in Sagittarius. Now this will be occurring on the 30th of November if you're in the US and on the 1st of December if you're in the UK, and it will be at 6:21 and in both instances at 9 degrees 32 minutes of the sign of Sagittarius. So all new moons are new beginnings. But this doubly so because this moon heralds in the new beginning made by Pluto's ingress into the sign of Aquarius, where it's going to be for the next 20 years. So this is the beginning of a change of the age and a time when we can be laying new hopes, dreams, and visions for our futures. Let's talk a little about Sagittarius because the sign is very linked to the season that it occurs in, and it marks the darkest section of the year. From the 21st November to 21st December, when we've got the winter solstice, those are the darkest days. Those are the real descending dark days. The nighttime cards in the tarot deck, if you like. And those are what we're passing through. But we're incredibly heartened that we do so with the sign of Sagittarius. It is a fire sign. It is a sign full of optimism, hope, and far vision. Just as the leaves have fallen off our trees and are opening up vistas and horizons, so we can look into the distance, lay plans, and do so with hope and with faith and with far-sighted vision. The outer planets, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, are working together to assist this rite of passage and to help bring about those things that are for our highest good. And so it's important that we use this dark yin energy that we have now, this introverted, inward-looking energy, which enables us and gives us the grace of visioning time, of dream time, that we use it well. And that it's a start for us of our own processes of bringing in the very best of futures for ourselves and for the collective. So at this point of the new moon, Sun and Moon are in the sign of Sagittarius. And they are opposite Jupiter in Gemini. And of course, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So there's quite a dialogue going on in this opposition. And it seems to me that it's all about beliefs. It's all about polarization of beliefs. It's about opinions, being opinionated. Now, Jupiter in Gemini isn't in exact opposition to the Sun and the Moon, but it is exactly opposite Mercury, which is also in Sagittarius. So this idea of thinking, communicating, and from Sagittarius we get the idea of beliefs, as we do indeed from Jupiter. So a lot of communication going on here in opposition about different areas and different types of belief, and no ability really to come into a middle ground where we allow for those opposite views and beliefs or tolerance of them. So far from being a unified brotherhood of man and a whole, we started off this new age of Aquarius with a fragmented world, with fragmented, polarized views, beliefs, opinions, and with an othering of anyone who doesn't agree with us. So this is our challenge. How do we get from this? How do we move forward? So information and disinformation overload, polarity, divisions, argument, nobody listening. That seems to be the situation that we're in. And it seems like that is going to be growing, getting even noisier as we move forward in the next months. Mercury itself will be retrograde and squaring Saturn, as will Jupiter, also squaring Saturn. So we're covering old ground here. Maybe restrictions coming in on communications, maybe old thinking patterns, old belief patterns, trying to entrench and hold sway, particularly so perhaps because Uranus, ruler of Aquarius, is in the fixed earth sign. Mercury retrograde is also trining Chiron, which is also retrograde. What we've failed to heal here is calling out for our attention. It's perhaps worth looking at where the whole idea of beliefs come from anyway. So I would say that beliefs come from the ego, come from the head and serve the ego, and serve the status quo, and serve the preservation of what is. But what's for sure is that in time they will change. They will always be subject to new winds blowing in, new tides of belief, new ideas springing up. In contrast to that, in contrast to belief, I would say that faith comes from the heart, and faith is linked to eternal truths, the eternal verities, those things linked to spirit which don't ever change. And those are blindingly simple. You know, they are forgiveness, love, compassion, brotherhood, treating other people the way we would like to be treated ourselves. Those are the core values that are never going to change, that are always underpinning everything. And they are part of faith and hope, as opposed to the changing winds and tides of belief linked to the ego. But of course, saying that eternal truths are simple is a far cry from saying that they're easy to live. They're not. Uranus, ruler of Aquarius, is opposite Pluto, is trying to Pluto, sorry, not opposite Pluto, it is trying to Pluto in a helpful way. And of course, Pluto has just moved into the sign of Aquarius. And then midway between the two, sextiling both, we've got Neptune. And Neptune is getting ever closer and closer to the North Node. And the North Node is our collective direction of travel. And of course, Neptune is speaking to the higher spiritual values that we need to embody in order to take that journey and to move forward. So we have this new Sagittarian new moon. And the tarot card associated with Sagittarius is this one, Temperance. Now, sometimes people think this is simply related to moderation, and that's by no means the whole story here. To temper, if we temper something like steel, is to mix it and blend it in a way that strengthens it, is to change it. This card is also known as the alchemist, as the healing angel, and it's about assimilation. It's about reconciliation of opposites. It's also called adjustment. And this is a time of adjustment. When we go through change, we need to adjust. So this is an energy here that we can really see manifesting at the moment and which we need to draw on and call on. This is also thinking of Chiron and Mercury, both retrograde there, and that wounding. This is also the healing angel. And I would like to look just a little more into the opportunities here for this transformational alchemical healing. Now, I've said that this card representing Sagittarius in the tarot comes as part of the sequence of the nighttime tarot cards. It comes very much as an energy to draw on as we progress through the nighttime in the tarot. And that very much relates to the descent that we're on now towards the winter solstice. The sequence ends with the card, the Sun, which of course at the winter solstice is reborn, is renewed. So it's very interesting, this whole sequence coming up at this particular new moon and the reference to this card. But I was very excited to remember that in one of the books I have by Sally Nichols, Tarot and the Archetypal Journey, she relates this card not to Sagittarius, but to the sign of Aquarius. And you can see why. I mean, the symbol of Aquarius, the two jagged lines of energy, you can see that it's precisely those lines that are flowing here between the cups of the angel. And it's impossible to know in which direction they're flowing. This is very much a symbol of blending, 1 foot in water, 1 foot on the land. And this interchange here of this Aquarian style energy. Now, I wouldn't in any way disconnect this from Sagittarius. I do adhere to the Golden Dawn's designation there. But I also think that at the same time, and especially in this reading, which is all about Pluto's move into Aquarius and the new moon in Sagittarius, I think that combining of the two is just right for us to consider at this time. And I'd like to just read to you a little bit about what Sally Nichols says about temperance, about this card. She says, this compensatory message of healing and unity usually comes when we are most alone, when our inner and outer lives seem most fragmented. The ego feels insecure and allows contact with the deeper self. And so I think the message there is that it can be in these times of real stress, like the one that we're currently going through, that there's a breach in the wall of the ego through which we can actually connect with these deeper archetypes which are there for us to ponder and to aid us in times of transition. And she also says, and I think this is pretty fascinating too, that we might see this card, and she's writing decades before the present time, we might see this card as the beginning of the Aquarian age in the psyche. So here we have it, a new moon in Sagittarius, a new stage, a new age beginning with Pluto's move into Aquarius, and finding ourselves at a point where there's a rift in beliefs, a rift in values, opinions, and communications are severed. But we remember that in this darkest time, we have the hope coming in here from the Sagittarian new moon. This far visioning, this idea that it is precisely when it's dark, that it is a time for visions, that we can look forward, that we can have faith and hope in the future, and that things can heal. The thing about temperance, the healing angel, temperance, the adjustment, all of those associations with this card, is that it's a card that calls for patience. These deep alchemical processes within the individual, and certainly within society, take time. And we're in very, very early days, and perhaps at our most polarized. At least I hope we don't get any more polarized than we are. But I think that this moon does offer us this far view into the future, and this view into reconciling, healing, melding, meeting in middle ground, allowing the space for all individuals, which enables us to be a healthy collective, which would be the Aquarian ideal. So the message of this new moon is hopeful. It is optimistic, but it's going to take a bit of time. And it's going to require us to be patient and also to be kind. So I'll leave it there for today. And thank you very much if you stayed with me all the way through this. And I look forward to joining with you again for the next of the Venus moon gates. Thank you very much and goodbye.